Welcome to the Raising Confident Girls podcast, your guide to raising strong, confident daughters. I'm Melissa Jones, the founder of Girls Positivity Club and a teacher for over 20 years. In a world where girls often feel overwhelmed, anxious, and confused, this podcast is your go-to space. As caregivers, we navigate challenges together. I founded Girls Positivity Club to provide a place where you belong and get the tools to face today's hurdles. Consider this your regular check-in with a trusted friend, offering insights and practical tips for meaningful conversations. I'm here to help you feel confident on this journey of raising a generation of empowered girls. Let's dive in and raise those confident girls together. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Raising Confident Girls. I'm your host, Melissa Jones, and I'm so happy you're here today. I am the founder of Girls Positivity Club, if you did not know, if this is your first time listening. And really what it's all about is creating positive after-school clubs for girls to help build their confidence in a chaotic world, and do that through giving them a sense of belonging, giving them personal growth and tools, building friendships in a safe environment, and having fun. Really, that's what we do in our nonprofit. So if you did not know that, that is what we do. And also, I love talking with you about topics because I believe that, through my growing up and everything, I needed support from not only my mom, but I needed, and my parents, but I also needed a place to belong. And I needed other people besides my parents to help me, navigate what it's like to be growing up as a girl. And I know you're in the same boat too. Like, you want to give your daughters or the girls in your life that good support. And that's why I'm here. And that's what this podcast is all about. So, because we believe that raising confident girls will change the world, and I know you do too. So, the topic this week is all about FOMO. And even though kids really don't say that a whole lot today, it's more of just like an understanding of, being excluded and things like that. We can still call it that because it is something that is real, whether you're an adult or you're a kid. And so what I'm talking about is helping her navigate the fear of missing out, which is commonly known as FOMO. So this can look a lot of different ways in growing up. And, one of the most common ways that I would hear about this or hear girls talk about this would be when I taught elementary school. So if you didn't know, I was a classroom teacher for 23 years, really more than that because of all of my training. And I still consider Girls Positivity Club teaching because we are. And we've been doing that since 2018, 2019. This would often come up, and it was sleepovers or birthday parties or outside of school events and somebody not getting invited. And so they would often hear about it on Monday. So typically this would happen on Mondays because things would go on over the weekend. And even if it was somebody went to church with someone else, or somebody, did a sleepover, or they just happened to see each other at some event together. And maybe your daughter wasn't invited, or maybe your daughter starts hearing them talk about it, or the girl in your life starts hearing them talk about it and starts to feel left out. Or that, man, I missed out. I didn't even know about it. They didn't invite me. Why didn't they invite me? And so then this becomes this internal dialogue of like, do they not like me anymore? Are we not friends? Why was I not invited? And it really starts to rock the core of them with their own self-worth and self-love, because in their minds, and I think as adults too, we can relate to this, is like, if you're not invited, do they not like me? Or if I'm not invited, did I do something wrong? Are they mad at me? I think that's something really common, especially for the girls. So what I would see was the girls that went to the thing, and you could tell they did because they were usually all like talking by the locker cubby area, and they would be talking and laughing. And then you would see a couple other friends in that friend group who thought they were in that friend group, kind of standing off to the side or sat at their desk or something like that, like wondering why they were not included and why they missed out on all this fun that these girls are talking about. And I don't think that it was always intentional. And, we've had a lot of conversations about why that would be the case, like why people aren't invited. And I would even address it as a class, because it would it would take over the class emotions. And I always believed that if the kids are not emotionally okay, they have a much harder time learning. It doesn't mean they couldn't learn, but if something is going on with them, either at home or they're dealing with something or something with friends, their mind is somewhere else. They're not going to pay attention to your fractions lesson, just because they're trying to figure it out. And what I found was, now obviously I didn't do this all day because we would never get anything done, but if I noticed it was having a ripple effect on the class, we would talk about it, and I would do it in a way that was anonymous to where they knew what I was talking about. I would still give the situations, but I would generalize it a little more so that it wasn't like singling certain people out. But really just saying it, just saying what was happening and what I noticed. And so, this feeling of being left out can cause a lot of anxiety. And so I think about this one girl in class, and she was really sad that she wasn't invited, and all the other girls wore matching shirts on Monday, and they were all kind of hanging out together, and she didn't even know how to approach them about it. Like she didn't know how to, say something like, "It looks like you guys had a fun time this weekend," or like acknowledge it in some way without just feeling weird about it. And so what they would do, what she would do is avoid it and just then wonder and internalize like, what did I do? Why wasn't I invited? All this stuff. And then the other girls would get mad because they thought that um, they just didn't understand why she was being sensitive about it. Or they maybe told her that they could only invite 3 people. And the girl was like, well, why wasn't I one of the 3 people? And so there's this whole thing, and it would usually last all day or at least until lunch, to where I would then approach those other girls and say something like, I noticed that you girls are wearing, it looks like you had fun. You're wearing matching t-shirts. I also noticed that, Megan was feeling really left out, or whoever it was feeling left out. Did you notice that? And they're like, yeah, we feel bad. We just didn't know. She's at her dad's sometimes on the weekends, and we didn't know if she'd be able to join. And so it's just easier to not. I know she's been feeling really sad about that because her parents just separated, and maybe, whatever the case would be. Like they would be explaining it. I'm generalizing different things that people would say, but it was like, well, have you talked to her about it? And 9 times out of 10, they hadn't. And they're like, it's nothing about her. Like, we really like her and we want to be friends with her. We just thought it might be hard for her to be able to get there because she's staying at her grandma's, at her dad's, or whatever the case would be. And then hadn't communicated that with her. So then she was creating this whole story in her mind about how she wasn't good enough and she didn't fit in and she was having anxiety. Like, do they still not like me as a friend? And all those types of things. And so, this just really created a lot of stress for the girl who was feeling like she was left out. And it can feel like everyone's part of something except for her, especially if they invite almost everybody in class to a certain event. So this can just really shake someone, and the bottom line is it usually has nothing to do with anything you've done wrong. It can be a lot of different things, and that's really hard to not take personally at no matter what your age. And so this, as parents, this could even be friends of ours who post that they're having a great time over the weekend, and they like went out to dinner together and they like posted about it on social media, and you're like, oh, I didn't know they were going out to dinner. And not that you even needed or wanted to go, but it just kind of grabs you a little bit, and you're like, oh, hmm, that would have been fun, or maybe you do want to be included and be like, oh, I wish I would have been invited. Like I just sat at home. We just kind of watched a movie at home, and I would have really liked to have done that. So it really can cause these feelings, and not only on social media, but like if you hear someone talking about it, no matter what your age. And so, um, what we want to do is help her manage those feelings in a healthy way and empower her to create her own fun, and also not let, those things take over and make her doubt her own self-worth and her own self-love. And, also communicate with your friends and ask them about it, even though it's like training her to have hard conversations sometimes, because that can be a really scary conversation for her to have. Um, And also it doesn't have to shake her completely if she's not invited to every single thing. So, for younger girls, this could be, like I said, not being invited to a birthday party or not being asked to join a game even at recess. That's really common. Like they all go off and do this certain thing and they don't tell one girl and she feels left out, or they don't tell a couple girls, then they feel like they're not being included. And so this can create FOMO. Like they want to go over and join, but because they weren't asked right away, they don't know, like, should they ask, and they feel left out. Or they want to do something else on their own at recess, and their friends are doing something else and they don't want to miss the fun. Like they don't want to miss anything. And so there's that struggle of like, do I go and join what they're doing, even though I want to do something else? Because I might miss out on some fun that they're having, or I might miss out on a conversation. I don't want to feel left out. So that's another way that it would show up a lot in elementary school. Birthday parties, sleepovers, and recess are the main ways, or lunch, like who you sit by at lunch. Those are really common. And then at that middle school age, it might be not being part of a specific friend group, hearing about, everybody else going somewhere and then she's not invited. So another example of kind of the same thing, but more of going and doing things, going to the mall or going to just some event together, a baseball game, a soccer game, whatever it would be, and not being included, or seeing that they had all this fun, or they're having these side conversations the next time they're all together about what fun they had. And then she is wondering why she wasn't invited, or maybe she didn't even want to go, but she still feels left out, or she feels like she's missed out on something in their friendship. And then for high schoolers, it might be being left out of group chats. I mean, group chats start really young now, and everybody has their own opinion about, phones and those types of things. We definitely don't want them to take over our kids' lives, but unfortunately, they do as they get older to a point. Um, and group chats are really common with girls. So they might be left out of group chat. They might not be invited to hang out on the weekend. They might see photos, and this is where social media can come into play more, of friends being at what looks like a super fun time on social media and they weren't invited, or they weren't included, or they weren't told about it. Or maybe they were and they just couldn't go. Maybe your daughter just couldn't go, and she still feels left out, or she feels like she missed something in her friend group. So, what we want to teach our daughters is that they can't be everywhere at all times. They won't be able to do every single thing, and they won't be invited to every single thing. And that's okay. That doesn't mean they've done anything wrong. It doesn't mean that they aren't valued as a friend. And so what we're going to do today is reframe FOMO, the fear of missing out, and use it to empower your daughter to prioritize what really is important to her. So that's really what we're going to do. And so, like I said, we don't want it to impact her self-worth. It's really more than just feeling left out. It's a direct hit sometimes on their self-worth, which is, do I matter to those people? Do I matter to them? And it's really easy for her to feel that if she's not at the event, if she's missing out on something important, she feels, or worse, if she's losing friendships. So this constant comparison of what other people are doing can lead to, or whether or not she's invited, can lead to anxiety. It can lead to stress. It can lead to lower self-esteem. So we just want to teach them how to balance their social lives and understand that missing out is not anything about what is valuable about them as a person or about their worth. It's really just about figuring out, does that really matter to me? And helping them to know that it's okay if they're not, again, invited to everything, if they're not part of everything. It doesn't mean that they're any less valuable than anyone else. So here are some steps and some tools, things that you can try with your daughter, which is the number one thing I just said was prioritizing what really matters, what truly matters to her. So teaching her it's okay to not be able to go to every birthday party, because maybe this was because she had other plans, or she wasn't feeling well, or she goes like I said, with another parent, if you're in a co-parenting situation, maybe she's at the other house or there's a trip planned or something like that. And it's really out of her control for why she's not able to go to the party or do the weekend hangout or whatever it is. And that she can really just think about, okay, first of all, it's okay. Second of all, is this something that's really an interest of mine? So maybe they go to a soccer game. Maybe she's not really that into soccer. And it's okay that she didn't go to the soccer game because that's not really something she's into anyway. And it's okay if her friends have different interests and do things with different people and that they're not invited or included for every single thing. Um, and it also is more about too, like, again, like I've mentioned in lots of episodes, checking in with her values. Like, does that activity align with what I believe and what I, want to do? Maybe if they're older, they go to a party and maybe your daughter doesn't really like a party environment. Maybe it feels uncomfortable for her because she's not sure if there'll be things there that she's, you know, not comfortable being around, or at a younger age, like maybe there's some girls there that kind of talk bad about other girls, and that goes against her values of kindness and not talking about people behind their backs. And being roped into some of those things can make her feel uncomfortable. And it's also checking in with her energy level when she is around those people and in those places. Like, does it match and make her feel good and lifted up? And um, and if that's aligned. And so really that's helping her prioritize what truly matters to her. And so it's for younger girls, letting her know that it's okay to stay home on a weekend. It's okay to rest. It's okay. Even she might not want to go, and that's okay. And it doesn't mean anyone's going to be mad at her. And it doesn't mean that she's going to miss out on the time of her life. It's okay to do something she loves. It's okay to have quiet time to herself, to read or to write. And you can say this to her: you don't have to go to every single birthday party. You don't have to go to every single thing your friends invite you to have a good time. So, what's something that you'd like to do instead? And then for middle school or high school, it could be, is this an event that is something you're excited about? Like, are you going just because you feel like you should, or is this really something that you are excited about doing? So checking in with her about that. And why this works in both cases is because what you're doing is teaching her how to prioritize and help her understand that her time and energy are valuable, and not every single thing needs to be attended, or she doesn't have to be connected to every single thing that her friends do. And she doesn't have to value the same things. And it's okay. It's also okay if her friends have different friend groups. That doesn't mean that she's not good enough or not included. It's just that maybe, like in life, we have neighborhood friends, we have activity friends. Like, we might go to a music class, and those are our people from music class. And she may not be invited to all those things because of differing interest, or maybe she doesn't really click with those other people, and that's okay too. So it's really saying to her too that it's okay to say no, because that's where some of the people pleasing can come in and be like, well, I have to show up to this or she'll be mad at me, or I have to go do this or she'll think that I don't want to be friends anymore. And so really it's saying to her, and I think this is something that as women especially um, is hard, is saying no, and saying to yourself, or even asking her, like, it's okay to say no, and saying this to her: what do you really want to do this weekend? What is something you'd really like to do? If maybe she did want to go to the birthday party, but the girl was only able to invite 2 people. Maybe she decided to pick soccer friends because she doesn't get to see them outside of practice, and she feels like that's their only time would be if they do this separate, event of some kind. And so it's asking her, what do you want to do? What do you want to do this weekend? What feels right for you? And it's okay if it's alone time, which is the next tip. Teaching her that it's okay to be alone and to have alone time. Now, this doesn't mean that you're lonely. I mean, there are a lot of people, especially if you have an introverted side, a lot of people like to have alone time. So it's good to have a mix of both. And you're going to have one that you're more natural in doing. Like, some people enjoy alone time more than others. Other people feel energized when they're around more people. So it just really depends. But it's teaching her that everyone needs alone time sometimes. So it's showing her that it doesn't have to be something that she fears. It's an opportunity to recharge, to think about things that have been on her mind, and it doesn't necessarily have to be negative things. It's focusing on activities that make her feel good. What are those things? Do you like to draw? Do you like to listen to music? Do you like to go for walks? Do you like to play with your animals? Like whatever it is. Do you like to go out and do a certain thing? So a question to ask your younger daughters is I think you could ask any of these at any age and just kind of tweak it, but what's something you love to do when it's just you at home? When it's just you in your room or it's just you at home, what is something that you would like to do? Um, and if she's like, well, I like to read a new book or I like to work on a craft. And then maybe it's like, do you want to do that together? And that would be a good, bonding moment for you two to do that together. Or maybe it's, would you like to do something like that? And maybe she does want to do it alone. And there's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean that she's necessarily sad or feels alone. It could just be that she wants to do something by herself. And there's nothing wrong with that. Then it's also checking in with her like, do you want to be alone or do you feel like you want some space to yourself or do you want company? And it's figuring that out and offering to be that company for her if she wants to do that. And it's also respecting if she just wants to play by herself or do something by herself too. And if she doesn't, it's helping her figure out like, how could we make this, um, feel good and feel what you need to feel and, um, just be reflective about what do you need in this moment? Like, what do you want to do? And it's okay if it's alone. And then for older girls, it could be maybe they want to journal. Maybe they want to go for a walk at, a place where they're allowed to walk by themselves. Or maybe it's painting. Maybe it's knitting or crocheting. I have girls who like to do those things. Maybe it's just doing random things in her room, like especially at that teenage, sometimes they want to organize their room or sometimes they want to even play video games or something like that. Like that is something that is alone time and they value that and they can be reflective about when they need that too. And it's really teaching them to embrace it, and having downtime is really good. It's good to have company too, but it reduces the anxiety of always having to feel like you have to be around other people to feel filled up. And it's showing them at a young age that both is good and that sometimes even when you don't plan to be alone, it can turn into something good because you can think about what would I like to do at this time. And that's going to transition as she's getting older, as all of these things are too. And then, really it's shifting her focus to that gratitude and connection. So helping her shift from focusing on what she's missing out on to appreciating what she does have. And I know that sounds cheesy and it might sound, as they say, cringe, but it's actually true. It's like, you know what? You do have good friends. They're just doing other things this weekend, and it's okay to feel this way. But what do you have? And it's focusing on her strengths and what she does have. So it's flipping that to like, oh, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. But maybe it's like, well, I have time to, learn this new recipe or go practice some skills in the basement in my favorite sport or um, spend some time doing something that I've been wanting to do for a while. Whatever that would be, it's like, appreciating maybe even that she has some family time with you. And maybe it's like, well, let's make this like a family fun night where we do some fun things together. And what would that be for you? Like, what would feel fun to do together? Um, and it's not necessarily about, cheering her up because maybe she does need a little cheering up, but it's also about showing her that family connection time is good too. And she actually does have some time to do whatever she wants. And even if it's the alone time, or maybe it's just you and your daughter and, or you and your, maybe her aunt wants to hang out or something like that. And it's really just showing her like, look at all of these options you have. It's really a great thing that you do. Um, and thinking like, we always say like, what's your yay today? Or like, what are you thankful for? What are you grateful for? Um, and it's like focusing on that gratitude helps her realize that missing out on one thing doesn't mean that you miss out necessarily on everything or that you're losing anything. And really, it's gaining more time with what truly matters to her at times too. Um, And so you might say something like, I know you're disappointed about missing out on whatever it is. Well, let's talk about the great things that you've done lately. Like, let's focus on something that's been going well or that we could do. So it's like opening up that possibility and also reminding her of all the good things too. And again, it's never about ignoring hard feelings. It's never about saying that everything's, great. We're not going to focus on that. It's helping her get out of it and be like, you know what else could I focus on? What are some good things that are happening for me? Um, and that's really good. And then also the next one is encouraging, if she is allowed to have social media, encouraging self-reflection on social media. And the biggest thing that I want to remind girls of and parents of girls as you're navigating social media is to check in with yourself about how following certain people are making you feel. So using that mute button, using that unfollow button, if ever, because the girls will often think that the other person can see that and they really can't. But it's just being really reflective about the impact on it and like, does it seem like everyone's having a good time? Yes, because everybody's going to post their highlight reel. Everybody's going to post the fun time they're having, and maybe they're really not even having fun. It just looks like they are in the picture. It's not really as great as it seems sometimes. When I know there have been some girls that have told me when they've posted like a photo of being at some girl's house that they were kind of bored and it looked like they were having the time of their life in the photo. So it didn't really match the reality of it. It's not that we have to share every single thing on social media or have our lives revolve around it. But I think sometimes it can create this distorted version of reality for our girls, and we need to talk to them about those things and also know that having her take breaks, having her set boundaries around social media use, if it's making you feel bad about yourself, unfollowing, muting, cutting down your time, maybe it's deleting the apps for a little while. If it's causing her to feel obsessive about keeping up with everything, or if she's really comparing herself, or she's it's seeming like she's missing out on all the fun everyone else is having. It's also a place for them to express themselves too, and be real. They can be real on it too, and they can be the exception. Um, but especially like there are streaks in Snapchat, especially when you have teens. It's like helping her know that breaking your streak isn't going to be the end of the world, and that sometimes you need to take breaks from that. And it doesn't mean you're going to lose friends from taking a break. Um, and so it's just really asking her, how do you feel when you see posts from friends that you weren't with? Um, how could you kind of monitor that for yourself to where then it's not creating worry, or you're not feeling like you're missing out and making you feel bad. Um, and so maybe it's taking a break on the weekend from social media. Maybe it's only doing it for a small amount of time, or however that is for your daughter. So what that does is it helps her reduce that comparison and worry about what other people are doing. Because the fact is, we can't control what other people do. We can't control, who your daughter hangs out with and what she posts or what she doesn't, since we're really talking about social media. And it's like, um, having those hard conversations where she has to be brave and say something like, you guys look like you had a really good time over the weekend. That would be something that I'd like to try sometime. Or, that feels very risky for them to even bring that up. What they tend to do is just kind of ignore it and kind of brush over it and pretend like either they didn't see it or not ever mention it because it feels too painful to talk about. So taking a break if someone is not feeling good on social media and following what her friends are doing, even turning off notifications for a day and seeing how that feels, like doing it in baby steps. I know this sounds so silly, but this is a big part of their lives, especially as they're getting older. And I'm not advocating for them having a bunch of social media or anything like that, or judging if your daughter does and she is on it a lot. It just is trying to feel what it feels like, taking breaks, and also not having her phone with her at all times. And that's a really hard thing, even for adults, because, the apps are created for addiction. Like, they really are created to give us those dopamine hits and to want to check in with how many likes you're getting and how many this and that, and like that validation. But it's also checking in with ourselves about like, is this, today, does this feel a little bit obsessive? Or is it making me feel good to follow this one person? Like, whatever it will be. So I always do a filter of, not a filter on how I look, but a filter on how do I feel when I see their posts. And most of mine, I feel good about. Like, I don't really follow people that make me feel bad. I've mute them if they do, but it doesn't mean they're doing anything wrong. It's just more like I do positive quotes and like funny, animal things and dancers. Like, I used to dance, and so I love watching dancers do just different dance moves. That's like one of my things too, like professional choreographers and things like that. I just love watching all their content. Um, and it's unfollowing people that make me feel that comparison and things like that, or just muting them for a while to where I don't see it all, and then coming back to it and just checking in with myself. And I know I'm an adult and I've worked on all of these things, but it's always still work in progress, and we're not going to be perfect at it all the time. And it's also teaching your daughter the same. Like, you're going to feel a certain way sometimes, and that's okay. And it's talking through it of like, why do you feel like you're missing out? And um, do you need to take a break from social media and instead do something like write down one positive thing on a card today, or I have like a yay board that a lot of girls will do, or what's maybe at bedtime is like, what was one yay today? What was one good thing about your day? It's like looking for the good. And making it a habit of checking in with her like every evening or every morning or something like that. And it's also gratitude journaling is something that, every day she can write down something she's thankful for, and be more specific than just like, I'm thankful for food. I'm thankful for my family. Like, maybe if it is food, it's like, I had a great snack today. Like, I really loved my snack. It was my favorite thing. I know that sounds silly, but it really does shift the focus on, instead of worrying about what everyone else is doing and what you're being left out on and things like that, it's really focusing on what are the good things in my life, and how can I shift my focus from obsessing about what people are posting on social media to what is something I'm grateful for? What's something that's been a real positive today, whatever that would be, and jotting those things down. And you can do that with her, no matter her age. You can, whether she's a teen or younger, you can both jot down something, or at least say something that you're either grateful for or something that went well that day. And then also having the space to talk about things that didn't, and that's okay too. But mainly focusing on, what are those good things, um, so that she can point those out for herself just on a regular basis. And then that's going to train her to think that way, and still feel whatever she needs to feel other times, but look for the good as much as she can. So what these tips are all going to do is going to help her, like, instead of having the fear of missing out, it's gonna, when she does any of these things, lessen her anxiety. It doesn't mean that's gonna get rid of it completely at all times in every situations, but it's also gonna help her learn how to appreciate that alone time is okay, that taking breaks from social media is okay, looking for the good. Like, those are all really good and simple things to do. They're not always easy, but they are simple. It's going to give her a stronger self-worth. So she's going to understand that her value isn't defined and what she's missing out on or what she's not included on. It's going to give her healthier friendships, because she's going to learn how to prioritize, like, you know what, it's okay if I don't go to every single thing that my friends are doing, but I'm going to really, when I am with my friends, I'm going to really enjoy that time together, that quality time together, and not worry about how many times we hang out, but just really enjoy the time that we do and be grateful for that, and feel good about, like, we had a really great hangout, or we had a really great sleepover, or we had a great time when we went to a movie and out to eat with her family, whatever it would be, or we had a great time at the basketball game. And just really valuing that, and not being afraid to talk to your friends about feeling like they're missing out, and saying something like, I know you didn't mean to, but I felt a little excluded when you guys were all at this and I was at home. And I know I'm not really into that, but I just want to let you know that I felt that way. And I know it may seem whatever, but I just wanted to let you know. And then that opens up a conversation for them to talk about it, and to not have to hide their feelings from their friends for fear that they're going to be mad at them or stop being friends with them or things like that. And that's what healthy friendship is saying the hard things sometimes, or saying it enough, like, I felt a little bit this way, is a good opener, because then her friend might feel that way if she's hanging out with someone else. So it's also flipping that and being like, oh, if I don't invite her, I want to make sure that she knows that, whatever. Or like if I think about the friend that crochets with this one girl, well, the other friend doesn't like to crochet. So it's more about like an interest thing and wanting some alone time with certain friends. And that's okay. She doesn't have to over explain either. It's okay to have different interests with different friends. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this helps you help your daughter and you maybe manage FOMO, the fear of missing out. And it's really, again, not about dismissing feelings ever. It's about empowering her with things to do, making choices that aligns with who she is and what she values and what brings her joy. And also thinking in her friend's shoes too. It's like, how would this make my friend feel too if the shoe's on the other foot and I am having an event, I'm going somewhere and I can only invite this many people, all of that. So it's thinking in both ways, not only about herself, but about her friends too, and how they might feel in the same situation, having empathy. And so I hope that these are helpful to you. So try one of them out. Let me know what you think and let me know. And again, the biggest compliment is to share this episode or any other with any parents that you know it could help. And until next time, know that you are worthy just as you are, whether you're invited to everything or not. And so is your daughter. I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining another empowering episode of the Raising Confident Girls podcast. Share today's insights with caregivers and friends, building beautiful relationships with strong girls. Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. We're not just a podcast, we're a community. Follow Girls Positivity Club on social media for more empowering content on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. This podcast empowers you, supporting incredible girls. Let's create strong, beautiful relationships with the girls in our lives. I appreciate you listening today. Stay confident, stay connected. Until next time, keep raising those confident girls. You've got this.